Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Let's head up to Indy. Cat Terrell, ESPN Saints writer. There with the Saints covering the Combine. Cat, always appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you?
Doing really well. Is there a general consensus on the biggest topic or approach or need there at the Combine for the Saints this week?
I think there's the consensus among the media, and
okay.
So I can really speak for myself that it's offensive line and defensive line. Whether or not the Saints agree with that, don't know. But I mean, both of those positions are definitely some of their top needs. They need a pass rusher, and then the offensive line. Kind of depends on what happens in free agency, but I'm going to have to think that they would have to address that in some way in the draft.
Kat, I know that it's not really until workouts start that people start to talk about Combine, draft risers or fallers or whatever, but just in the early going there, as they kind of go through interviews and medicals and the weigh-ins and all that stuff, is there any buzz there in Indy about players, whether it's offensive or defensive linemen or otherwise?
Not yet. I mean, it sounds weird to say that. It's early in the week. It's really not early in the week. It's late in the week, but it doesn't. I don't get that sense yet. But I feel like those things kind of come in the week after the Combine when everyone's digested it, and then they start talking about it. But it'll be interesting to see who the Saints are looking at and talking to, and things like that as the next few days progress.
Well, we know they talked to Jayden Daniels. What do you make of that?
Right. It really depends on whether you're considering it a formal interview or an informal interview. So teams get probably 40 formal interviews, but as far as informal interviews go, teams are probably talking to almost every guy at the Combine in some way or the other. I'm going to guess because it became news, it was a formal interview. And I just think, as Jeff Ireland told the media the other day, that they're doing their due diligence. I think they fully believe in Derek Carr. So I'm going to doubt we're going to see them draft a first-round quarterback. But they've surprised us before, but I'd be very surprised with that one.
Kat, what first popped in my head when I heard that was the Mahomes year. And,
right.
the Saints had Drew Brees. That was 2017. I mean, Brees still played 4 more seasons, but they were prepared to take Mahomes 11th if Kansas City hadn't leapfrogged them. Is there any thought that could be the case, that if someone like Jayden were to fall, I don't think he's fallen to 14, but what if he fell outside of the top 5 and got somewhere in that 8 to 10 range that they would make the move?
The reason I hesitate to say that, if he's there, they would draft him, is because, to me, that says, okay, they're giving up on win-now mode, which they fully put themselves back in their minds when they went out and signed Derek Carr. They invested all that money in Derek Carr, and then you're going to take a quarterback the next year. I think that it would definitely say something of their opinion on Carr if they did that. I just feel like they wouldn't be willing to admit that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But on the other side, if the guy is there and he's the top graded guy, and they feel like it's a can't miss prospect, well, there's always reasons to take someone. So I know I'm kind of wavering all over the place. I still don't think they'd take a quarterback, but if he's the guy in the years to come, like Mahomes, then maybe that's how they think.
Cat Terrell's with us, ESPN.com. Ship there in Indy at the Combine, on Twitter at @Cat_Terrell. Y'all give her a follow. Cat, what did you make of the Saints adding Dave Ziegler?
I think it's interesting. I haven't met him yet. I'm talking to people around the league. He seems to be pretty highly regarded. Actually, ran into Terry Fontenot, who obviously used to work for the Saints before going to the Falcons, and he had great things to say about him. So definitely interested to actually get to meet him. We haven't met the offensive staff yet. I actually saw most of them walking by me a minute ago. I'm near the Saints Hotel, so I guess they're out starting to do interviews.
Okay.
But, yeah, that's what happens at the Combine. But, no, from everything I've heard, people really like to hire.
The all of the cap gymnastics are going on right now as well. The big news today was Cam Jordan. Well, I mean, you laugh because I'm assuming the reason that every media member that covers the Saints sort of chuckles, because it's like this is something I think all of you who cover this team today could probably do this process for Kai Harley.
We have a lot more cap knowledge than we did when I started this job. That's for sure. I laugh for two reasons. One, because I actually ran into Cam Jordan last night. He's also here at the combine. And two, it's like at this time of the year, it's all we talk about. I have a spreadsheet of the daily salary cap and all of the players' cap hits all the way up to 2027, because that's what you have to have if you cover this team. And they're going to be doing this for several years, even though they keep saying they're going to get out of it. So I'm rambling, and I think you asked what I made of them restructuring Cam specifically.
Sure. I just kind of asked the chuckle, because it was like, I mean, this is something they all do. But yes, I mean, Cam is a fair one to ask, because he's not been a productive player the past couple of years. Now they're committing themselves to him financially for a longer period.
Well, I feel like his cap hit was so big last year, it almost felt like extending him helped that cap hit versus if they'd cut him that year. When you restructure a player, as most people who follow the Saints know, it makes the financial implications of cutting them in the year or two to come much harder. And Cam has not said he's going to play for several more years. He's kind of said in terms of 2 years. So would next year be the last year? I don't know, but I do know that now he'll have a massive cap hit, and they're going to have to figure out how to work around his production and age. I don't think his body recovers as fast as he used to. He had more injuries this year than he's ever had. So that one is probably not the easiest restructure, but he had a $23 million cap hit or something, so you had to address it in some way. Hard to say, go to the player and take a pay cut when they just gave an extension that guaranteed the money this year anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm interested to see how they do that. Do they move him inside sometimes? Maybe. I mean, do they figure out how to work around him? Because they don't have a lot of other pass rushers. It's Cam, it's Carl Granderson, and that's it. So that's something they're going to have to address.
Does that make pass rusher the number one need for the team in your opinion?
I think it's very close to offensive line. Now, if they go out and re-sign Andres Pete, who I think actually really proved himself last year to still be a good addition to the team after he actually lost his starting job. He has to take a pay cut. He comes out and plays left tackle, and I thought he played well. And he's another one of those players where it's better to keep him than let him go because of the $13 million dead money at his contract void. So if they re-sign him, that helps a little, but then you look at Trevor Penning and how much the team actually believes in him versus what they're saying. They're saying all the right things, but if they've already kind of moved on from him, which I don't think they have, then I would think an offensive lineman would be a top priority. But it's definitely one of those two. In Ramczak's needs, too, as well. That's an issue.
Do you have an update? I know Dennis Allen mentioned they expect Ryan Ramczyk to play this year, but do we expect any time a definitive timeline, Kat, to know for certain if Ryan Ramczyk's going to be back? Because, Kat, I would assume with free agency here 2 weeks away and then the draft soon to follow, they need an answer to that question.
I think they have it. Just based on people I've talked to, it seems positive. There was no doom and gloom. And obviously the reason why this has become such a big story is Ramczyk, who doesn't really talk to the media that much. He's a quieter guy. He probably wishes he hadn't talked to us that day. He was so frank and honest about how this is a lifelong thing he has to manage. And if they don't find something that works, then retirement is not off the table. He didn't say it in his exact terms, but that's what he was getting at. And so now, a few months later, when the Saints say he only had to have a minor knee procedure, he doesn't have to have surgery, and they feel like they can work with this, I think that's got to be a huge relief. But the biggest sign that we're going to know they really fully believe is if they restructure his contract. That'll say everything.
She's Kat Terrell, ESPN Saints reporter. She's on Twitter at @Kat_Terrell. Hey, before you go, just look ahead at the next, say, 7 to 10 days post-Combine. What are going to be some of the headlines and things that Saints fans should expect here in the next week to 10 days?
Well, I think it's about to get really exciting because free agency is about to kick up. I don't think the Saints are going to be in any huge, splashy free agent talks, but they'll probably add a few. But the biggest things will be Michael Thomas, Jameis Winston, whether some of those trickier restructures get done, like Ryan Ramczyk, and then whether they re-sign Andres Pete. That's really their biggest free agent, and whether Jimmy Graham retires. But I think Michael Thomas and his, in my opinion, impending release will probably be the biggest topic once free agency officially begins.
It is never slow in NFL circles, as you well know, Kat. I mean, they have done a brilliant job, the league has, of making this a 12-month cycle, and it's one thing to the next, and free agency is next here after the Combine. Okay, Kat, have a good weekend there in Indy. We appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, you too.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.